So a very basic kind of fundamental question. First of all, this blockchain has created so much of noise. We and in fact reached a stage where we don't know what is the actual voice and the noise. So much we keep on hearing, and we keep saying that hey, blockchain, 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 blockchain. And in fact, if you go online, you will be surprised. There is a fellow, he went to one of these TEDx talks and he spoke on blockchain. All that he did for 3 minutes was blockchain, 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 blockchain. He didn't even spend a word. He said blockchain because blockchain, blockchain, because blockchain is a blockchain and blockchain. And fun part of it. The real question is, what is it for finance professionals? I'm a chartered accountant. What is it for me? What am I going to do with this? I am a consultant. I am working in employment. I am currently, for various reasons, I have been laid off, various things. So understanding this technology, what happens? That is something which we have to spend and we'll have to understand. Okay, and the reason why this technology is so very important is because of the wonderful use cases which this technology brings forward. And that is the beauty of it. It brings forward, my dear friends, a lot of benefits. In fact, you would be surprised the amount of things this can actually do. And I'll give you live cases how it is being helping out, and I'll give you potential cases which are very good cases for blockchain, because one very important role for us as professionals, especially as chartered accountants, is we have a huge domain expertise. When I use the word domain expertise, I'm talking about the domain knowledge in terms of finance. It may be in audit, it may be in risk, it may be in consulting. But what is that knowledge going to do when it comes to blockchain? That is what we're going to try to help link the dots, of course, looking into some basics. So first and foremost, there's a quick brief about me. I'm a practicing chartered accountant. My area of specialization is technology, and I have a passion for technology. And I'm also the ICA faculty and core committee member for the executive course on blockchain, which is hosted by our own ICA. So my agenda today is going to be very simple, and I thought I'll discuss, today's challenges, a few concepts, and also we'll speak about what are the use cases and other opportunities. So I thought I'll make it very simple. These four topics I want to cover. So first and foremost, what is the challenge which we are facing today? We live in a world which is called as the VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. We do not know what is going to change and how the way things are happening. It is very, very inconsistent, especially after this COVID. All of this has become all the more important, and it is, you have realized that you cannot sustain or survive in the methods which you did in the past. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to read this article called as the Honduras Bridge Collapse. Okay, this was a beautiful article. I don't have those images to here. I don't want to, I'll probably see if I can share that image if I have over here. And this is a very, very interesting use case which says how if you do not move or change your course, what happens. That is a classical example of this situation. Let me quickly share this screen. I'm just showing you a sort of a Google chat window. I'm sure you are able to look into this. Sorry, is my voice clear? I see a couple of them messaging that voice is not very clear.
Yeah, voice is clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. See, this was a bridge, the Honduran Bridge. Okay. Now, what happened was, it was constructed a few years back. Probably, I'm not sure when was the actual date, and this is where the water, the tide was actually going. I'll link this to blockchain. I'll come back to it. Don't worry. I'll speak about variety of topics, but ultimately I'll link it to blockchain. That's my style of communicating and speaking. So you will find the water flowing, and this is one of the finest bridge architecture-wise. A lot of good, interesting things there. There was a massive hurricane in this particular city. What happened in this Honduras city or state is that there was so much of an impact that everything sort of got destroyed except this bridge. Such was the creation of this bridge, and such was the beautiful infrastructure and architecture. I think it was a Japanese construction. But very, very interesting thing. The flow of the bridge, so the flow of the water was so very powerful that what happened was, because of the hurricane, the course of the river itself changed. And you know what? This is how the bridge looks today. Whereas see where the river is. Can you see that difference? The river is on one side, the bridge is on the other side, just lying idle. The river has moved, the bridge has not. This is exactly what is going to happen in our lives and our careers. And that is why I say the world today is filled with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. If you believe that the yesterday's skills are sufficient for me to survive the market tomorrow, my dear friends, I don't think that is going to help us out. We need to upskill ourselves. And one of the very fundamental things we need to upskill ourselves is with the knowledge of these emerging technologies. And blockchain is one of such. Let's go a little more deeper in terms of today's problems. See, the bigger problem today I'm facing is a major trust deficit. I can't trust anything. I do not know whether I read something, is it trustworthy? I receive something, I do not know it is trustworthy. For all you know, somebody says that he has so-and-so certificate and qualification, how do I trust him? In fact, the very role of us as chartered accountants is to enforce the trust, correct? And that is why unsigned audited balance sheet is considered so much more valuable. But the real question is, today there is fake of everything. Fake document, fake audit reports. A lot of initial measures came in, etc., etc. But the question is, can there be a technology which can sort of, be a game changer in this? And that is where, my dear friends, this blockchain proved initial success. The reason why I say initial success is this is still gaining acceptance, and it is expected by 2023 or 24, blockchain will fairly mature. Second problem, the fake menace. We are dealing with a lot of fake products which is flooding our market. Every now and then we keep on dealing with this. We have these issues of anonymity. Somebody sends a message in WhatsApp, a derogatory message, and we are not able to track what happened. Businesses are not able to get access to quality capital. Supply chain is becoming more and more agile, but it is not able to get itself upskilled. And there is a constant need for reconciliation. Those of you, especially in the practicing chartered accountants, you would have understood that the need of reconciliation is just terrible. So much, especially when it comes to your GST, your income tax, this, that, A, B, C, you have to. And in all the reconciliations, all that you're doing is my version of truth, your version of truth. We're trying to match, because none of them is the final version of truth. And that's exactly what this so-called technology called as blockchain perhaps tried to solve. Let's scale it up to a business side, how a business probably looks into it. And if I look into it, there is a company, there is a supplier, there is a bank, there's an insurer, there is an auditor, there is a customer. Now, every entity whom you see in this particular screen maintains his or her own set of books of accounts. Great. It can be transactions, it can be ledgers. I'll simply call it as ledgers. A ledger could also be whatever is being mentioned, in terms of a transaction. But do I have a single version of truth? No. And if I want to have a single version of truth, it's inefficient, expensive, and vulnerable. And that is where this technology, which so-called Satoshi Nakamoto spoke of in terms of a Bitcoin, correct, a peer-to-peer ledger, etc., etc. I'll touch upon those fundamentals. See, I'll take you through fundamentals, and I'll then slowly go on to explain the use cases. The technical portion of it, I may not be able to cover in depth because there's just one session, but I'm sure, these sessions are organized on regular intervals. You'll be able to get yourself updated. So what exactly is this blockchain? Let's go back to school days. I have my 5 friends. We are a small gang. We are in touch despite being almost close to about 15 years or 20 years since we finished our schooling. We are in touch, and we always remain in touch, and we hope touch wood. So In school, when we used to go out, way back, parents used to give us some pocket money. We used to go out for a movie or just have popcorn, just hang out and come back. What used to happen was, the simple rule was, all of us, unless it is a treat, all of us had to share and split the money. Great, that's normally how it happens. But the catch was, how do I keep a record of how much my friend is spending? Normally what I do is, I used to pay for the movie, my friend used to pay for the tickets, the auto fare, one more fellow used to pay for the popcorn, one more for the Pepsi, and one more for maybe some gaming or etc. etc. And then what we used to do, we used to take all these numbers, split it and write it. But let's presume this on a jovial context. Each of you don't trust another. You are not too sure about it. So what do you think? You said, okay, why should I trust that gentleman? Why should I trust this gentleman? So you said, okay, let's do a simple rule. Every time 1 rupee any one of you spend, the other 4 of them you have to show the receipt or okay to. You said, okay, fine. So every time that fellow sends boss, he says one receipt, okay, done. And you, all of you write down in a book. And tomorrow what this going to do? This is what is this going to do? There is no confusion because everybody have agreed. You cannot say, hey, no, that day I did not agree, etc., etc. Or you cannot say, like, the cricket match, you got out and you said, nee, I was not ready and all those things. Pehle se bol karna hai, wo sab nahi chalega. So you can get started with, you have a single version of truth. And all of them have the same thing. And tomorrow if you want to do anything, any alteration, all of them have to be consulted. And that is the entire concept or the logic how this blockchain became or was introduced. A blockchain, my dear friends, is not Bitcoin as much as internet is to email, blockchain is to Bitcoin. In other words, Bitcoin is one application of blockchain. Blockchain has got diverse applications. I'm sure you would have got a thought process in this particular. Let me jump into the next bucket. What exactly is this blockchain? Look, go back to my example. 4 friends of mine maintained a ledger for every transaction which I incurred, or rather all 5 of us had. And every transaction which took place was sort of authenticated by each of them. And once it was authenticated, everybody used to write. And you used to keep your own ledger so that nobody else sees it. Just like way back in schools, you had your own, way of doing it. This jovial example, my dear friends, if technologically implemented, is blockchain. It is a network of peer-to-peer, like-minded nodes, where each of the nodes or the nodes on which specific power has been given validates the transactions such that only after validation all of them will have their ledgers updated. In simple language, imagine only after A bank and B bank are agreeing, the entries get passed in the respective books. Look at that innovative. So as of now, I send a check for the bank or I send a check for clearing and it is still on hold. One leg is passed and only after I receive, I reverse that leg, etc. Here the entry itself is passed only once the acceptance is received. That means I am trying to ensure there is only one version of truth. So somebody makes a request, that request is validated by all the parties, and once it is validated by all the parties, that transaction, or we call it as a block for this particular purpose, is added to the chain of blocks which is existing. And what is there in the block? The block, even for understanding it in terms of a photograph or in terms of an image, you can think like this. But a block is basically consisting of certain textual information, alphanumerical combination special characters. What does it have? It has what is called as the hash. What is hash? I'll come to it a little later. Simply put, encrypted information. It has the data or the transaction. It also has the previous hash. It is something like saying that, the train bogies, which bogie has to go join the next bogie, right? It has the previous hash. and only after validation this block actually goes. So initially things started by just doing one transaction, one block. But as and when transactions kept on increasing, multiple transactions used to get added to one block. And then they said, who are these players who's going to validate it? What is the incentive they're going to get? And that is why a Bitcoins introduced a concept called as mining, and the incentive for them for validating, they got the cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency was considered to be a fictitious asset, but today it has monetary value because it can be traded with various currencies, and I'm sure you know all that. But when it comes to enterprise blockchain, the area where I specialize in, Bitcoin principles are used in enterprise blockchain. In other words, the concepts which we just learned will not be validated by you and I, because you and I are assuming we are going to incur a transaction. The transaction is going to be validated through a blockchain network. You and I will not have a mining system in our home. Why should we have it? Who will have? The parties or those nodes who intend to validate the transaction. And therefore, let's take this example to understand this better. I want to purchase a beautiful car, Mercedes or even a Tata Nano. I don't think they're in production, but let's presume I want to produce this. Now, a manufacturer has his own version of truth, which is nothing but car details, this, that, all those information. Now, on the other end, you have one person who's called as the dealer, you have the sub-dealer, you have the insurance company, you have the road transport organization, and so many players are involved. Now, what is the biggest problem for the manufacturer? My version of truth and the dealer version of truth is always different. He is asking my statement, I am asking his statement, always confusion. And just for your reference, many of the dealers, what they do, because they have to meet their sales target, they will just book the sale, next day they will reverse it, and a lot of things happen. Of course, this was a practice, to some extent controls have increased. Now I said, I forget all this here. Can I have one version of truth? Kuch kar sakte kya? And that is where they brought in the blockchain, let us say. Now what happens? A transaction, please note, blockchain has got multiple methods in which validation happens, and this validation is called as consensus mechanism. Consensus mechanism. In simple language, in my example of movie with my friends, all four of them had to agree, correct? In a case of a Bitcoin, 51% has to agree. In a case of an enterprise blockchain, you can define the consensus mechanism, which means a car is sent from the manufacturer's end and it touches the dealer's point. It touches the dealer's point. The moment it reaches the dealer, transaction completed, automatically entries will go in my ERP as well as their ERP. That means, sir, ERP should be on blockchain. Wait. I said transaction is in the blockchain, ERP is not in the blockchain. ERP can be there in my own system, but I will have this separate online portal which will in turn get interfaced with my SAP, Oracle, Tally automatically, such that any transaction, if I just have to go and see sales or purchases, I know that version of truth is final because it has been agreed by me and reported by the manufacturer, or also given the consent. So in other words, between the manufacturer and the car dealer, I repeat, between the manufacturer and car dealer, they both enter into consensus, it is sufficient. Why should another car dealer give you the consensus? Why should some RTO agency give the consensus? He is nowhere person necessary for this transaction, and therefore he will not validate this transaction. On the contrary, a car is being sold between a sub-dealer and a dealer. Is manufacturer anywhere in charge with this? No. So whatever is defined by the sub-dealer and dealer will take precedence. In other words, that is what the consensus. So I'm just giving an illustrative case. You can say, no sir, what if this happens, what if this happens? We can always work around and try to give. In other words, the consensus mechanism, my dear friends, has to be defined crystal clearly, and this is the first role for us as chartered accountants. Why? Sir, at the end of the day, you're going to audit the system. Earlier, you were trusting people were trusting you as a chartered accountant because you validated it. Tomorrow, people are going to trust this blockchain. But who's going to audit blockchain? You and me, sir. We are the auditors of the future. We have to audit this technology. Are you trying to say this technology is so very foolproof? My goodness, no. If it was so very foolproof, why did we hear that Ethereum was hacked a few days back, 51% attack, etc., etc.? Correct? There is always a possibility of an attack or a risk, but you can track and trace it. You can track and trace it. Then you can say, sir, in Ethereum, how do I trace it? I can figure out which is that public IP which actually did it, or which is the public key which or public address which did it. But whose that public address is, I cannot identify. But when it comes to enterprise blockchain, can anybody come into my enterprise blockchain? No, only the authorized person. Correct? And this is what we call it as a private blockchain, details of which will come into the subsequent. So I hope you're able to get the context. I hope you're able to get the perspective, because many a times what happens, we have a misconception of what is blockchain. Oh, मैंने ऐसा सुना था, मैंने ऐसा सुना था, मैंने ऐसा पढ़ा था. Unless we get a live transaction where you're able to see all these, you will never be able to get. And trust me, my dear friends, tomorrow when you start doing audit of all this, assuming a company is using blockchain, for you it really doesn't matter. I mean, the front end user, not as auditor, front end. For him, the front end will be the same. Imagine you go to the Kirana store fellow and say, "Aisa cryptography aega, aisa block aega, aisa channel aega, aisa approval aega." He says, "Sir, chale jai." But in the back end, if you do all this, it gives the additional level of comfort for everybody. In other words, blockchain is a technology which will run in the back end. The front end will look as similar as the Zoom app or this, this PPT or whatever for that matter. Moving further. I think I'm not going to spend time on how it works, because my focus is on enterprise blockchain. So it's a distributed ledger, like we said. It has data, it has hash and hash of the previous block. Hash is nothing but encrypted information. For example, I am just having water bottle here. Can you find what is this which is mentioned over here? It's a little hard to immediately guess it, but if you look carefully, you'll be able to guess this. This is selling, it is something here. This is some other character, and this other. What is it? It's the name of a company, which is IBM. It took a few seconds for us to identify. Now imagine the same wordings which I had written, I had changed it in a different format context that only you and I know it. In other words, I know how to lock it, you know how to unlock it. Or I have a key to lock it, you have a key to unlock it. Same key used for locking, unlocking, symmetric encryption. Different keys used for locking and unlocking, asymmetric encryption. And it uses a concept of asymmetric encryption and various protocols, etc. As far as we are concerned, data is hashed. What is the encryption standard? There are some things which you have to look into. As an auditor, I mean, there's an initial stage. If you're going to a little more into tech and deep, you need to know what is the standard of encryption which has to be used. For blockchain, there's a separate encryption standard. Likewise, enterprise blockchain will use an encryption standard. Normally, a 128 or a 256 is considered as a basic standard. How do I say it is secure? Because I know every time a transaction happens, all of them have to authenticate, and only then the transaction actually is pushed into the system. And of course, the first block is called as the Genesis block, without which nothing can actually come into picture. Fair enough. Fantastic. We have got an idea about all of this. Where do I take it up further from this? This is the cryptography. This is just to tell what a block consists of. It could be a hash, something which you can see there, numbers, 38, 47, whatever. You just don't understand it, sir. Many times when you're searching on Google, that address bar, if you see, some fancy things come. Those are all encrypted information. Long back, when you used to type a username and password, okay, the password will used to appear in the address bar. So a hacker, when the information is going, he will just pause that information, read through the address bar, and you'll get it. That is why an unencrypted website is very, very dangerous, and we prefer a HTTPS to a HTTP. Correct? Anyway, so this is the basic of cryptography, and just one more slide to understand how this cryptography works. Example, a favorite food. I know today is a Saturday weekend and tomorrow is a Sunday. Let's presume in your home you made tasty dosa. And I'm sure most of you know what dosa is, because I'm not sure whether the audience are from India or abroad, but let's presume that dosa is one of our very favorite food item in it. Now, dosa is just a 4-letter word for us, but the system understands dosa like this. And what if I just remove the D in the dosa or make the D lowercase? The entire hash is different. And this is only to tell you, my dear friends, that the data what you put in is absolutely safe, and you cannot reverse engineer to get it. And that's a fundamental logic of hash. Of course, there are technologies to reverse engineer. I don't want to go into those things. Let's understand the basic concepts. Then we'll go into advanced one. Next, I add some extra masala to it. If I add masala, what do I get? Masala dosa. Look at the hash. Are you getting this difference? Are you getting this difference? So the length of the hash key is the same depending upon the encryption standard which you're following. And trust me, encryption standards are defined by each person and are proprietary in nature. RSA is a very large company. They have defined these encryption algorithms, which is globally accepted worldwide, and they have proprietary rights. But it is not that they are the only companies. There are definitely much more. And for encryption, there's a lot of mathematical science involved into it. Let's not go into those parts of it. As far as I am concerned, I need to understand blockchain, how it will solve my problem. Correct? So this is on the tech piece. So that's basically blockchain for you. If I have to put it in a nutshell summary, blockchain is a peer-to-peer system where the transactions only after due authentication or consensus is added to the chain of transactions, such that every block consists of some basic information like data, previous hash, the hash value from to whatever is that transaction. Okay, and this ensures that every block, I repeat, this ensures every block is added only after due authentication, and there are of course procedures for this. Let's go further from this. What are the few components of a blockchain? We have understood that A, it should obviously have cryptography. Second, it should be peer-to-peer. I spoke about it. Consensus algorithm. It should have a ledger at the end of the day, a transaction statement, and validation rules. What transaction will get validated, etc. Okay, so therefore you need to have these rules in the picture. What if suddenly one system was off? What if some server went down? What if one server was attacked by virus? A lot of these validation rules comes into picture. Great. Now, if I have to go a little more into depth, I'm going a little, probably I would say maybe 2% more technical. On the top, you have the decentralized applications, SDK, software development, whatever the applications. You have the runtime executions, you have the APIs. APIs are very critical in blockchain. I'll tell you why, because not everybody will be able to come into the blockchain. APIs are very critical, and we'll speak about API a little later. On the bottommost, you have the cryptographic hash, you have the messaging infrastructure, you have the event or the transaction, whatever it is. And in the center, you have the nodes. You have to manage the key, private key and the public key. You have to have the established connectivity between peer-to-peer. You need to have the entire blockchain system, the distributed consensus. Very important word which you'll find in the center, on-chain data versus off-chain data. Of course, off-chain, you'll find this. Now, what is this on the chain, off the chain? See, many times what happens, my dear friends, let's go back to the car example. Now I'm selling a car. If I sell a car, what is the most critical thing which everybody is interested with respect to that car? The engine and the chassis number. That is the critical field. Price also people may or may not be interested. The engine and the chassis number, and maybe let's say MRP or dealer, whatever price. I will put only these three information into my blockchain. Why? The more the information I put into my blockchain, the heavier the blockchain becomes and more the time it takes. Today, majority of the cryptocurrency mining happens in China because the power is cheap there. Many of the miners are from China because the power is cheap. They may be from rest of the world, but the mining devices are there in China. The power is cheap. Imagine a bank running a blockchain setup which has a data center. It has to have it in 4 different places. 4 different fellows have to give consensus. That means already they have the live server and disaster recovery server, QA testing server, etc. In addition, they need to have 4 places because they have to give a consensus. Imagine the cost and the time. Correct? That is the reason blockchain is slow in adoption. It will take some time, but once it triggers off, huge benefit, huge benefit. So therefore, on the chain transactions are going to be limited. You need to have incentive and charging management. In the case of Bitcoin setup, you have that mining fee. In the case of a non-Bitcoin setup, you may have something else. It depends. For example, if you're talking about supply chain, or if you're talking about trade finance, the people come together, that trade finance setup, they may have some sort of an incentive. It again depends. Then you have the distributed ledger, the ledger copy of chain data. This is what will be recorded into your ERP, SAP, etc., etc. And ledger to ledger interoperability. This is at an early stage now. Whether a Hyperledger Fabric will speak with an Ether, whether R3 Corda will speak with another this thing. Let's simply put it, understand in simple language, whether Apple and Android can speak with each other. That's a simple language. So moving a little into types of blockchain, the public and the private blockchain. A public blockchain, most of you are aware, a simple Bitcoin sort of a setup where anybody and anybody can join in, whereas a private blockchain, the entry is very restricted, it's permission. In simple language, you can understand public blockchain like that of an internet, anybody wants can use it. Private blockchain like an intranet with only restricted people can use it. Now this private blockchain is converted in such a way that, you know, open to everybody, whereas private is closed to authorized users. Identity is anonymous and pseudonymous, whereas private is not. What is anonymous? You don't know who it is. You know, way back in our English literature, we had these in school at least, right? We used to have this poem, and it was authored by some, let's say, Robert Frost or anybody, and we always used to find one author called as anonymous, right? We don't know who is author, but it's author. Pseudonymous is a very simple logic. It has a logic of conversion. Let's take an example. Let's say I'm talking about this mobile phone. I don't want to reveal the name of this mobile phone, but I represent it by a code. Sorry, is there an issue? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Prem, for clarifying. I think there was some confusion there. Sorry, coming back. What I was speaking about? I was speaking about pseudonymous and anonymous, right? Pseudonymous is a beautiful technique where one-to-one conversion, I repeat, one-to-one conversion takes place where I know this value represents this. A simple example, employee ID and student, pseudonymous. You can reverse engineer to some extent and catch hold of who the other person is. Forget that. I say, I'm sure all of you have written the exam. Your hall ticket number is pseudonymous. Only your pseudonymous, only your hall ticket number is quoted everywhere. Nothing else is quoted in. Correct? So that's a classical example of pseudonymous. Whereas in private, I know who's the fellow who's doing it. I know who's sending the message. Let's quickly take this further. Permissionless, public is mostly permissionless. Whereas oops. Why did the screen sharing stop? Sorry for the confusion. I think now screen is visible. Yeah. So public and private, we spoke about identity, anonymous, pseudonymous. Access to network, I told it's permissionless. That means anybody can log in. Permission, that means there is a method. Because it's permissionless, anybody wants to log in. It's open source, whereas private, it is closed, patented, proprietary. That's a very important thing. Public versus private. Again, this is a little conflicting view. Many of them say public blockchain is more trustworthy than a private blockchain, vice versa. But it is a little subjective. For the time being, I will exclude this point. And there are methods in which you can validate it: proof of work, proof of stake, proof of elapsed time, proof of POET, and a lot of methods are there. Private works on proof of authority. Bitcoin and Ether are public. For private, you have Ripple and Hyperledger. Hyperledger is what is most popularly used. It comes from the Linux Foundation. And you have the authority or ownership. A private is owned normally by corporate or a consortium. Miners validate as anybody, and private can be only by approved nodes. And this is generally the way in which, speed of transactions versus decentralization and transparency. Public permissionless is considered to be more decentralized and transparent, whereas speed of transaction, private is considered to be much more. This is one next section which I'm going to spend some time, called as smart contracts. One single thing which literally revolutionized the way in which industries and enterprises can adapt blockchain. A smart contract is nothing but a contract which is smart. Now, how do I call it as a smart? Self-executable contract. Now, what is the meaning of a self-executable contract? You click a button, you're installing the software end to end. Do you go and download, remove the patch file, unzip it, etc.? You're not bothered about it. All that you do is double click, unzip, go ahead. The same way, a contract which triggers on an event occurring automatically without any human intervention is a smart contract. An example could be an insurance company has planted some sensors on the soil, and beyond X number of days, the soil did not get water through rainfall, and the the government declared this as drought. If these both events got triggered automatically, the smart contract will execute itself automatically. The money will get paid to the farmer's account. Beautiful concept. So it's a self-generating. It's a contract created between parties. There is some sort of a triggering event. There is some sort of a regulator, and it's a self-executable. And this is backed by some amount of trust. Why do you say this is backed by some amount of trust? Because you certainly know, my dear friends, that this technology is backed by encryption, backed by industry standard, military grade protection, whatever you can call it. It is based on blockchain. Therefore, the trust factor enhances. So what can blockchain smart contract solve for you? It can help you store record. It can do the trading. It can help you in supply chain, mortgage, healthcare, copyright, employment arrangement, real estate, voting, insurance, IoT. My goodness, the use cases are just plenty. Okay, by the way, IoT is one wonderful technology, my dear friends, which is going to be a game changer. Because this blockchain will not work independently. It requires some feed and sensors. You remember I spoke about off-chain and on-chain. You can't expect every person in this world to be a part of your blockchain network. How big will it be? That is why you have the on-chain and off-chain. And that is why you will use APIs to get connected. An API in simple language is application program interface. A software speaking with software, transmitting some data, like a bridge. What these APIs are going to do is blockchain requires a trigger, and these APIs are going to be those fellows who are going to give information. IoT sensors are going to give you information and leads. Let's take a simple example. In Kerala, this was a live case. I happen to work with associate over here. There was a requirement that there was one type of a fish. I'm a vegetarian, so please excuse me, I don't know the name of the fish. There was one particular type and breed of a fish which had heavy demand in the international market. Heavy demand. But many of them used to say this is a fake, fake fish with the same name and sell it, and people used to actually, buy it. And once they started eating it, they realized the taste, it was not. So they wanted, and this was an expensive thing. So they said, why don't we use blockchain for this? So then they came up with this interesting solution. What they did was, they asked all the fishermen to come together and said, you come and submit it. Why should they submit it? To the fisheries authority. The moment the fisheries authorities, what the fisheries authority, yeah, probably, I think, I'm not sure if it's a salmon fish, Prem. I'm sorry for that. I'm a veggie guy, so please excuse me. Sorry, I don't know why this keeps on disappearing. I think I would have accidentally pressed escape. Sorry, my bad. Technology always keeps me grounded. It says that how much I don't know. Okay, hopefully it's better.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So I was talking about a fish. I'm sorry, Prem, if you love that fish or whatever it is. But be that as it may, the interesting thing is this had a huge market. And when it had a huge market, there was obviously a lot of fake products which can come up. And because it had a market potential, they said, why don't we develop a blockchain system to validate it? Now, what they did was, the fish was brought in. The moment this fish was brought in, there used to be a person who used to authenticate and validate it. And sensors were deployed, not inside the fish, obviously in that whatever the packet, container, etc. Those sensors used to transmit real-time information just to double check that somebody has not broke open that and did some mischief. And through that, they were able to prove to the foreign exporter, or the importer rather, that these fish is authenticated and the certificate is issued by the the Fish Development Authority. Like that, there are multiple use cases, and IoT is a beautiful technology. Just an FYI for your information, ICA is coming up with a guidance note on Internet of Things. Okay, probably in next 1 month or 2 months it may be released. How do I know it? Because I am the author for it. I have just authored and submitted last month. So after due validation and verification, it will be released very soon. So it's interesting information. IoT, I see a huge potential. IoT is nothing but sensors, sir. Your smartwatch, your phones, your wearables, your smart streetlights, all of those come under IoT. Taking this conversation further, what is it that this blockchain can solve? It can solve anything relating to record keeping, asset, land, title, share, accounting, booking, all of them are record keeping. It can track movement of goods, its shipment, source, origination. We have a concept called provenance in blockchain, which can track from source to destination, everything. It can verify, validation, trust, put that extra check feature, and it can aggregate, bring things together. And that's what you're basically trying to do with blockchain can. And what do you want to capture? You want to capture information, you want to capture knowledge, you want to attribute responsibility, access, permission, rights. Voting system also is possible in blockchain. Voting system is possible in blockchain. Reputation, trust, contract, transmission, a whole lot of these things. And for whom? It could be for your customers, it could be for your employees, suppliers, producers, creditors, governments, etc. That means the entire world is covered. That means after learning about blockchain, boss, ये technology एकदम first class है. Let's go ahead and start implementing it. Hang on. Blockchain is a beautiful solution, but what is the problem? I repeat, blockchain is a beautiful solution. What is the problem? In other words, blockchain is a solution which is searching for a problem. And that is where we as professionals have to clearly understand problem kya hai. If I know the problem, I can figure out what blockchain can solve. If I am not able to figure out what the problem is, blockchain implement nothing. You need to know what the problem, and for that you need to understand what are a few use cases in blockchain. This one slide gives you everything. Of course, I picked it up from internet. Use cases. The bucket of digital currency, you can use it for e-commerce, global remittance, peer-to-peer lending, microfinance, whole lot of these things. The bucket of smart contract, digital rights, wagers, escrow, all of these are possible. Come to the downwards, securities and BFSI. My dear friends, if blockchain is implemented in the India's security market, all the security market intermediaries will disappear. Today, look into the share. I am having a share in Infosys or Wipro. Just look into the number of players who are there. I am having a share. Share should be in electronic form. Therefore, NSDL, CDS. NSDL and CDSL are depositories, not depository participants. I cannot open an account with them. So I need to open with XYZ, Access Securities, ICICI Securities. You have these guys who are depository participants. Now the shares, the company wants to know who keeps a track of this. Registrar and Share Transfer Agent, RTA, one more further. As though this is not sufficient, I want to buy and sell the shares. What do? I have to go to a stock exchange. Can I go directly to the stock exchange and sell BSE? Come on, sell the shares. No, he'll say come to the stockbroker. And if I'm doing with electronic trade, like you have something called as custodians. If I'm talking about ADRs and GDRs, you're talking about custodians. Imagine one single share I'm holding. How many players are there? Ignore all this. The entire transaction is put into blockchain. Blockchain tells who is the owner at what point in time. This blockchain will be owned by somebody. Okay, it will not be something which anybody can own because misuse is possible. So let's say BSE or NSE owns it. That's it. CDSL gone, NSDL gone, stockbroker gone, everybody gone. Or maybe to some extent stockbroker may be there for giving the pipeline of the license. Over, that's all. It can revolutionize. Today's stock market shares takes T+1 to settle, T+2 to settle, beg your pardon. Mutual funds takes T+1. Now, if you have to talk about T+1 or T+2, we know only T+2. What happens if it does not get T+2? Do you know that? On the T+3, auction takes place. And those of them, because they are called as bad deliveries, right? Bad deliveries has to be reconciled, it has to be auctioned. Of course, today to a large extent, these all have been removed because everything is done through the stock market through a digital route, but still it is possible. So T+3, what happens? You have to have a delivery, you have a bad delivery reconciliation. After it is over, auctioning of that bad delivery, they'll give another 2 days. So effectively, it is not T+2, it is T+9. Of course, the volume of T+9 may be 0.001%, but still it happens. If this one security setup comes in a blockchain, over, that's it. And this is why it is called as disruption, something which will remove the rest of them. Just like how mobile phone cameras removed Kodak, we can't think of Kodak today. Just like the Honduras bridge, which I spoke about, the bridges of no use is just lying there. Look on the other end, record keeping. You can take care of your health records, especially in India. This is a little at an early stage. In US, Europe, Australia, few of these advanced countries, there are separate companies who maintain or keep a track of electronic health record. In India, all electronic health records are all in papers, kept in cupboards. Whenever we go to a doctor treatment, we take everything, prescription, everything goes. In US, it doesn't operate that way. I go paperless. I go give my statements. It is linked to certain numbers, IDs, whatever, you can call it social security or whatever number, let's not bother about it. And based on that, it is able to link and it is able to give you interesting results. And all of this is maintained by third party. And this third party has the entire electronic health record of you. And therefore, they have a law called as HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which talks about a lot of guidance, rules, regulations, restrictions, protection, various things. Be that as it may. Now, what that does to you is that it brings you a new service provider. It gives you a tap of a button electronic health record. Now, you go to a hospital will ask you permission. You have to approve through your phone, OTP, whatever. Once authentication is there, only then the hospital can see you. And they can store only some amount of information, balance amount will be there. Because you don't want to reveal your information. Privacy is becoming the next biggest challenge, my dear friends. The next 5 years, privacy is going to take over the world because the awareness of privacy, the fact that everybody are becoming privacy conscious. Everybody are thinking, oh, why? What will happen if I do this? What will happen if I do this? Recently, a friend of mine bought a new phone. He was installing it. The number of questions that phone is asking, my goodness. He is saying, sir, exam also I do not have so many questions. And it's all privacy and GDPR compliances. It is coming back. Title records, biggest problem today, land records. Who owns the land? Some random fellow. And it can go to a backend database, pass an entry, and the transaction gets changed and proven in the court of law. Litigation runs into 25-30 years. Title records, if it comes in blockchain, my dear friends, there is no way in which you can dispute. But you know what is the biggest problem in getting our title records? It is not digitized. It is not fully digitized. Some places, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, it is digitized. You look into places like Bihar, I was told, like, please excuse me if I'm factually incorrect. I was told that it is still not digitized and it takes a long. A lot of interesting challenges. Then you have the ownership, voting, intelligence, so, hundreds of these things, and these are potential applications. I'll probably take up one more case and probably, give the floor open. It's almost close to about 50 minutes since we started conversing. I can go into this topic hours and hours together, discuss on use case, because I am a specialist in use cases to decide whether blockchain can solve the problem or not. And I've been helping out a good number of companies in doing that. And that's where, interesting ideas I keep getting. Banking. This is one reason I take banking, because banking risk is high. If a risk materializes, impact is high, and they have a lot of money, so therefore they would be interested. So what all it can do? Your interbank reconciliation. Today, I'm not sure how many of them are aware, if I transfer money between you and I through a check, it takes 2 days or 3 days. If it is a non-MICR check, it takes at least about 1 week. Some places, some cooperative banks still, I think, accept, even though RBI now made it mandatory for everywhere for MICR. NEFT, RTGS. NEFT takes roughly 3 hours to 4 hours for a transaction to get settled. RTGS is roughly cycle about 1 hour. Okay, I'm not going to discuss what is NEFT, RTGS. UPI. You will be thinking, sir, UPI gets settled immediately. That is okay. But it is all settled through PhonePe, Google Pay, Paytm. If there is a difference between my books and your books, Google Pay, PhonePe has given an undertaking that I will try to sort of offset it. I will pay the compensation. If a banking brings up blockchain, and for information, it's already proposed. Vajra is the name of the banking platform which RBI is proposing for blockchain. Vajra. Beautiful document, and those of you who are excited in learning blockchain, I would highly recommend it. 2 things. One is Truth Machine, which is a book which is authored on fundamentals of blockchain, gives a very clear perspective. Second is our own Indian government publication by Niti Aayog. They speak about what exactly blockchain is and how it works, what are the concepts, what are the use cases, and they've spoken in a very simple, lucid manner. And India has got a very big advantage when it comes to blockchain. I'll come to that a little later, which the global peers may actually are lacking. Okay, coming back next to remittance, peer-to-peer lending, smart contract enforcement, crypto banking. It's a new unopened sector in India. Probably it's going to take some time. Thailand has already started because it's legalized cryptocurrency. It's accepted, subject to certain rules, etc. Records storing and storage. You are, I think, one of the places you'll find KYC and anti-money laundering. My goodness. Today, if you go to a bank every once in 6 months or once a year, sometimes once in 2 years, you have to update your KYC. And otherwise your account gets inactive. Can't I have a simple system? I've updated everything. One time I update with one registrar. Every fellow takes from that registrar. Possible through blockchain. Possible through blockchain. It requires a lot of integration. Data security, trade finance. Trade finance is a terrific case. I don't want to go in depth into it. I can go hours and hours discussing on this, but I think I gave you the core context. I'll just give you one practical use case. This is basically a blockchain consortium which is there, which is backed by 5 different players. HKTFP is basically Hong Kong Trade Policy Federation or something. We just call it as Hong Kong Monetary Authority, backed by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Backed by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Second, we have Voltron powered by R3. Then you have Marco Polo powered by R3 again. VTrade powered by IBM. IBM is doing a lot of things in these emerging technologies. I wouldn't be surprised if very soon IBM takes over Microsoft and Google, but it's a good level playing field, all of these. And then we have the Ethereum, Congo. These are the companies we are actually using. And can you see a group of banks in each of them? This is consortium. This is how blockchain will be implemented. Why? If I want to implement, if ICICI Bank says I'll come forward and implement blockchain, it will implement something different, which the rest of the banks will not accept. And that is where it takes a lot of time and effort for you to clearly get an understanding saying, hey, how should I implement blockchain? And today, normally it is implemented through what is called as a consortium route. Consortium route. Okay, so consortium route is basically what many of them use or use it to build a blockchain. Let me give an example. I'm not sure 2 years back if you have read the news, it said Reliance used blockchain method of payment to settle a transaction of some XY dollars 2 years back, and it was done through HSBC Bank. What happens in a case of online Swift? Swift is again another half an hour area of discussion. I can discuss on audit weakness. I can discuss how Punjab National Bank, you can mitigate using blockchain, etc. Let's stick on to what we wanted to cover. In the case of a Swift, what happens, my dear friends, is there are multiple parties, and only those fellows who have license to be a part of the SWIFT, for information, is like a society for worldwide interbank fund transfer, which most of you are aware. Not every bank can be a part of it. So what happens? There is a corresponding bank and there is a member bank. The corresponding bank is the bank, perhaps, I ignore the jargons and terminologies. Let's simply say that, I am Wells Fargo, I have a license with SWIFT, but I have one more local bank, let's presume ANZ Bank of New Zealand. New Zealand, ANZ, hypothetically does not have access to SWIFT. So ANZ has to get in touch with Wells Fargo in turn speaks to SWIFT in turn speaks to State Bank of India speaks to some XYZ cooperative bank. You can imagine the cycle, and each of them will take that much amount of charges and commission. Now, what this will do is, in a span, what will happen is this: they executed through, I think, HSBC. A transaction which was executed through HSBC, in a click of a button, in a jiffy, it was able to solve, because HSBC was using a blockchain platform. Within that, I'm not sure it was VTrade or HKFTP. Through that, they settled it, and what used to normally take about 1.5 days took them half a day. Half a day, because of course, why I'll tell you half a day? Because not all the banks were there in the VTrade platform. So HSBC was able to settle with ANZ using the HKTFP platform, correct? Because they're a member there as well. But between HSBC and State Bank of India, it took some time. Or HSBC to HSBC in India, subject to sectoral regulators, it took some time. So therefore, assuming everybody come into a level playing field, a common field, this is going to be a revolution. Trust me, if blockchain comes into picture, Visa, MasterCard will disappear. Visa, MasterCard, and what is the other one? Not the RuPay. And Visa, MasterCard, Maestro, and Amex. These guys make money only by linking various banks. And you know the amount of commission they charge? You might be thinking 0.5%, 1%, but imagine the number of transactions. And that is why when Indian government said for RuPay card, we are going to charge, I think, probably 0.01% or something. Visa and MasterCard went and complained to the Commerce Ministry of USA, and therefore they put pressure to the Indian government saying, what are you guys doing? It's going to affect my business. Because digital card-based transaction, they get a huge amount of commission, and all that they do is providing the technology setup. Taking this conversation quickly further, this is what is the Vajra by NPCI. Aishwarya, I'm sorry, I'm taking a few more minutes. I hope that is okay. I'll quickly try to wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
So communication protocol by Vajra, and this is something which is very unique. You'll find inside the Vajra platform, participating nodes are there, and on the left hand side you have your channel server. What is a channel server? To give an example, channel server is your ATM server, your ATM switch, your internet banking server, IBACS. It's called as internet banking access control servers, etc. Then you have the switch, which is like the ATM. Then you have the merchant payment gateway, UPI. All of these, it will be connected through API. Look at that. They are all connected through API. So don't expect your ATM to be connected on a blockchain. It will be connected through an API, but there will be one central server of SBI, or I'm just giving SBI because they're the largest bank, or HSBC, ICICI. They would in turn be connected with the Vajra platform. This Vajra platform is going to replace potential use case. They're going to replace the what is called as your clearing system. Okay, so therefore it is going to happen much more faster, and this entire communication, the clearing house, is going to be taken over by the Vajra platform. The instant clearing is going to happen, and on the right hand side you can also see the core banking system and the UIDAI authentication service. So UIDAI authentication servers are also necessary, especially to validate. And in this context, let me also give you a couple of points. I was in discussion with a couple of them from the Niti Aayog in one of the conversations. So I asked them a simple question: where do you find India in the blockchain adoption? In fact, government is much ahead when it comes to blockchain adoption in India. Okay, they've tried to do a lot of things, but of course now I think because of this COVID and other things, the priorities have changed. But India has two big advantages when it comes to blockchain, which the rest of the world is finding it difficult. First, in blockchain, I want to authenticate whether you are really the right person before I start off a transaction. In India, we can authenticate it by a click of a button within 30 seconds. How? Thanks to UIDAI. A beautiful state-of-art infrastructure. Of course, there are a lot of questions and issues on that. I'm not going to discuss that. A beautiful state-of-art technology which brings in a concept of authentication. And second, we can do the fastest and the instant settlement in India thanks to UPI, Unified Payment Interface. The government of Mexico has actually taken specific case study based on UIDAI and UPI to implement it for their systems, and many other countries. Well, we keep on saying that our systems are not great, etc., etc. There are a lot of good things also which we should have. Okay, so those are basically initial thoughts which I thought I should share it with you, and maybe I'll quickly jump into one more use case, and this is probably a little interesting use case. This is called as your I'll probably skip these. This is something called as a Brooklyn microgrid. Brooklyn is a city in US, city or a province, I'm not too sure. It's a place in US. What happens is in Brooklyn, they have their entire setup covered with solar panels, and people produce solar energy and they either sell it or they consume it. So let's presume there's a party at your home or your generator is not working, you can just borrow power, and for which you need to pay. Correct? So, and they said that, I am also generating power, I'm also consuming power. So I become a prosumers. Okay, prosumer is a new jargon, just for information. Prosumers are those guys who are producing content today in your TikTok and other things. They also run revenue, they also see it. Correct? Let's ignore that. So now for all these parties, the prosumers, residential prosumers, industrial prosumers, they had this meter ticking. They wanted to know that they're generating power, but how do I know who's consuming it? How do I keep a track of it? They said, okay, fine, forget about this. We'll implement a blockchain system coupled with RFID tag. It will track where, how much power has been consumed, who is consuming it, and real-time reports are available, dashboards are available. They put in a simple thing, and who has to pay to whom on a weekly or a monthly or XYZ basis, it sort of gets settled. So that is something which I wanted to tell you. And one last thing which I'll probably make a mention is, many of them ask me, sir, how will my blockchain and my SAP work? Right, so in the center you find the blockchain hub. It may be the Bitcoin, it may be the Ether, or it may be the Hyperledger. On the other things, these linkages are there when it comes to bank payments, payment gateways, market data, web APIs. On the other end, you find what is called as SAP and your Salesforce, Oracle, etc. Now, these are going to be combined. Okay, because one blockchain cannot speak with one more blockchain. They may be a necessity for a conversion. And that conversion person, resource, device is called as Oracle. Okay, this is not the Oracle software. I'm talking about Oracle as a concept. So Oracle is an agent that verifies the real world transaction and submits it to the blockchain just to ensure that the chain between this and that is actually sort of complete. Okay, so that's basically what blockchain can possibly do for you. Blockchain in India, fairly well advanced. You find most of the countries, just for FYI, this is not a COVID-19 chart or COVID-20 chart. This is basically adoption of blockchain. Most popular cases, land registry, insurance, digital certificates, each of them have different use cases. Avascent and NASSCOM research available online, you can probably Google it. This is one more point which I want to make a mention. Most of the times, blockchain is developed in the form of consortium, where the banks come together and develop it. Another possible method is a joint venture. This is what happens, I think, in IBM's case, I think this was what the joint venture which they did. Statutory organization is basically a Hong Kong Federation Authority, where they did it through a statutory backed mechanism. So what is the road ahead for you and I? This image speaks 1,000 words. Because today you heard me speak on blockchain. In one other session I speak, or somebody else speaks on artificial intelligence, you'll think, oh, AI is next. Then you'll think, oh, something is there, something is there. So the question really is, you need to get the priority right. You say that you specialize in blockchain, great, go ahead and specialize into it. Invest time, learn, and see how best you can use it. You are in an industry or in practice, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this technology is going to give you a new set of opportunities. So what are the newer roles? Real-time monitoring. You may have very soon blockchain fraud examiners, forensic experts who can go certify what happened in the blockchain. For example, Ether, which we just saw the 51% attack taking place. Smart contract auditor, what if the smart contract configuration has gone wrong? A simple example is that I have entered into an agreement between you and I saying that, on this day, go ahead and make the payment. Payment took place, but the smart contract forgot to check whether the money was there actually in the bank account. Correct? So who will bear that? So there's a concept of escrow which will come at. Smart contract arbitration is a very, very interesting opportunity. Okay, blockchain analytics experts, blockchain auditors, technical control experts. I'm having a huge bet on blockchain auditor and technical controls expert because I love auditing systems. I just love, I'm an auditor at the end of the day. I have a system knowledge and I combine both of them. I'll be excited to do a lot of blockchain or audit based systems. And I've sort of, devised an audit program also for blockchain. Anyways, that's on the other side. Permission blockchain, grantor of access, oracles, all these are interesting roles for us as professions. So to give you my summary and my gist, blockchain will fundamentally replace the existing domains, industry, business models. Supply chains, all these things will take decades to transform, whereas a decentralized marketplace will give you that benefit. Accounting will evolve. Triple entry of accounting is already coming into existence, but it is a matter of time. Number of use cases, what you and I have heard of it, is only finite. Probably the best use cases of blockchain have not come. In fact, if you ask me, the best use case of blockchain in India is GST website. If you are able to bring that into blockchain, we will be the world's largest blockchain implementer. Trust me, already the GST website is the largest aggregator in the world with the amount of data they have. Of course, there are a lot of fancy trolls, etc., which keeps on going. The GST website does not work, etc. Look at the volume. Look at the volume we're talking about. The density, the population, etc. So it will only take. It's only a question of time. So I hope I gave you some thoughts on what it is. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm there for a few more minutes. Thank you, Aishwarya, for providing me this platform. And this is all about me. You can reach out to me. I regularly speak on blockchain, technology, audit, Excel, name it on technology. I just try to learn that and try to share it.